Welcome to House of Horns. We are here, free agency week. So much going on in the NFL, but not so much for the LA Rams. I'm Gilberto Manzano, NFL reporter for Sports Illustrated, and joining me, as always, Victor Javier Corona, Vic, the producer. Vic, it's good to be back here in House of Horns. We needed to have a show, and we probably could have done the show last week after Jalen Ramsey got traded, but it was on a Sunday, and it was a little too busy for us. But so here we are, a couple days later, a little late on the trade, but not much going on in terms of keeping players or bringing new talent to the Rams. But we'll get there eventually. But I'm just glad, and we keep saying this throughout the whole offseason because we take a break, we come back. But I'm glad to be here, House of Horns. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. It's good to be back. I know there hasn't been a lot of news going on with the Rams. They've been really quiet and during the free agency period, so it's been mostly losing a lot of players. And I know Ram fans are got to be frustrated right now because there's not a lot of movement going on, and you just keep seeing. Just as we hopped on, Nick Scott would just sign, went to the Bengals, and so that's another player. And yeah, it's been a tough watch for the Rams, but I'm glad to be back doing this. I know we've been kind of trying to get on as soon as we could, but you've been busy doing work for SI, and then I've been doing some producing work on regular COMPAS. So we've been a bit busy, but we're glad to be back, right, Gil?
Yeah, it's gonna be a whole lot of players moving. I'm not sure if Nick Scott has officially joined the Bengals, but it sounds like it's pretty advanced in talks there. But we're gonna discuss this whole new look roster, and we need to make a show here, Victor. So when nobody's coming in, everybody's leaving. Nobody really cares about the people leaving because. And one thing as a writer, when I was a beat reporter, by the way, I hated doing stories on the ones that left. I'm like, okay, bye, I'm too busy. But say it was somebody like a pretty popular player who left, like a Jalen Ramsey, yeah, you'll do a story. But the Nick Scotts and Taylor Rapps of the world, you kind of say, okay, move on, good luck. But we got to make a show here, Victor, and we're gonna, I guess a kind of little preview, look at the depth chart where it stands right now and how it does. But yeah, it's been an interesting week for me. As people know, I'm not a Rams beat reporter anymore. I cover the NFL for SI, like I mentioned at the beginning, and that consists of being aware of 32 teams. And I got to write about the Ramsey trade over the weekend, which ruined my Sunday, but it's okay. Felt like old times covering the team. But yeah, pretty much notable news. And right now I'm on standby doing like free agent grades, a bunch of rankings, and it's a very tedious work, but I'm getting to learn the full NFL landscape. But while I'm doing other stuff, I see Coleman Shelton comes back or whatever, and so I still keep good tabs. And hopefully, you guys are enjoying this show here at House of Horns because we're gonna keep doing the knowledge. I know Victor, you're keeping tabs too as well, but we like to have a full lens of the NFL.
Yeah, and we still have you covered. As soon as we can come on, we will. With especially right now in the off season, we'll have a little bit more time. But this is a crazy time, especially in free agency, and it'll be the same thing too with the draft. Now that the Rams have 12 draft picks, so we have plenty of
A
content
lot.
coming your way. A lot, yeah.
Yeah, and also too, like besides being busy with work, I've been busy doing the merch line here.
Yeah,
You got the
there you
hat, you
go.
got the hoodie, you got the shirt in the back there.
Yeah.
And that's been a process. I went from me and my partner Caroline building the Compass on the Beat merch.com website. Check it out, link in the description where we put all these items here if you guys are interested. Eventually we got to do a House of Horns line, like a little collection there for House of Horns, and we got to figure that out, make it nice before the football season, maybe some tailgate stuff. We'll get into it, but check that out. Gonna promote it here. People like the hoodies, so if you ask me for a recommendation, go with the hoodies. They're very comfortable.
And
Uh,
they're very warm. Like I'm like they're super warm. I'll tell you that, Gilbert.
and you're not lying. Like I know you're here. You're part of the staff. We were both
Yeah.
together here on the network, but I'm telling you, these are one of the most comfortable hoodies, and I'm actually surprised how lucky I am that I stumbled on these hoodies. So it's a good connection for me. And check it out. And maybe eventually, yeah, right here, I can have House of Horns. But if you want to support the network, start here, and it's gonna grow. And also, too, if you comment on this video, Comas on the Beat or even House of Horns, I will enter you for a giveaway hoodie. So uh,
There you
all I
go.
ask, check out the website, Compass on the Beat merch.com, and put in your email into the subscriber list, and I'll enter you to win a hoodie. And then also a separate contest here if you subscribe to the show and comment on the video. So just comment, and we'll get it going. And before we get to the engagement question of the week, which I enjoy because you hear from people, We have so much going on here at Compas on the Beat Network. I don't know if you want to break that down for us, Vic.
Yeah, no, we've been covering free agency on regular Compass on the Beat. Every day we've done a recap. We won't be doing one here on as we record on Thursday, but every day we've been releasing one. We've talked about everything that the big impact deals and stuff like that. We've kind of got into it. It's been you and Fernando, and then Dan and Dago and myself hopped in there, and we have a nice discussion about some of the things that have gone on throughout that day, like Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So make sure to go and check that out if you're interested in that. We also have FC, FC, what is it?
Compas FC.
Compas FC. Sorry. All of them
Close
confused
enough.
here. Yeah, Compas FC is Champions League time. So the boys over there got you covered. We got combat compas. See, man, I'm getting like stuck here with all these names. We have so many stuff going as we talked about. We have so many things going on in the network. Combat Compas is back. There's a preview for there's an announcement actually for WrestleMania 39, and then also going over some of the previews for boxing that are some of the mega fights that are coming up. Maybe not a mega fight with Canelo, but some mega fights with Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis. And then if you're interested in any Chargers news, they also have you covered at What's Up Boats. So, but with now that we've taken care of all our business, Gilbert, let's get to one of your favorite parts of our show, which is the engagement question.
Yeah, the engagement question of the week here at House of Horns, or for the episode. It's I guess maybe it's a question that's too soon. Too soon. There you go. Is all this moving parts, people leaving, trades, and not much talent coming in, and this roster being 5-12 a year ago, and you seem to be maybe I guess getting worse. Let's keep it real here. I don't think the question is too early. Maybe it's about right, and we'll get into it too with what's going on with all the moves and what they could do to maybe upgrade this roster. But right now, what is it? March 16 as we're recording. You're probably watching this March 17, St. Patty's Day. Whenever it is, here's a question: can the Rams win more than 7 games this season? And I won't say just with this roster. Maybe with your optimism, is it okay? This roster, and then what they have coming up ahead with the draft. Do you feel confident they can figure it out and eventually win 7 games? Maybe they'll be kind of a team that came out of nowhere, or the team that said nobody believed in us, kind of thing. We saw with the Seahawks a year ago. So leave a comment under this video for the engagement question. Can the Rams win more than 7 games? And give me an explanation. And also, too, if we just do like a House of Horns or Compas on the Beat, that also will count to be part of the hoodie giveaway. So that's what I want to hear from you guys. And we're going to break down eventually or soon enough how this roster stacks right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question because as of right now, I mean, and we'll get into it in terms of where the depth is at this on this team as of right now. So, I mean, there's a lot of holes to fill on this team, and I'm sure they got to get to their 53-man roster by the beginning of the season. And so, as of right now, I mean, it's not looking good, but you still have 3 months to go, before the season starts. And so before you know it, the season will be here and they'll fill out their roster. But yeah, I mean, can't wait to see what fans have to say about this engagement question. So let's get to uh the latest news and notes. Gilbert, what do you have for us?
Yeah, we could save the Ramsey one for discussion here, but real quick, let's start with a guy who's staying is nothing big, but Coleman Shelton, he was a versatile offensive lineman staying to help out the interior of the offensive line, and he's not a household name, he's not the sexy name or whatever, but he was big last year for the Rams. From when Brian Allen got hurt, he moved from right guard to center, and he just been the steady force for such a weird season, injury depleted offensive line. So to get him back is pretty nice. And then you have some goodbyes here. I forget if we mentioned it in last week's show, maybe, or 2 weeks ago. Maybe we didn't, but Leonard Floyd left too. That's another one. Kind of we probably missed. But recently the Rams lost Baker Mayfield. They lost Matt Gay, the kicker, and the long snapper Matt Orsard. So it's not just the defense, offense, special teams. They're all losing people. So it's gonna be interesting. The one that I was thinking maybe Baker Mayfield will stick around, and right now, currently, Victor, they don't have a backup quarterback to Matthew Stafford, which is something you need for a veteran and a guy coming off of injuries. But we'll see if they'll retain Wolford or Bryce Perkins. And after what they showed last year, maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they should go a different route. I think I was checking the backups and available right now. There's like a Teddy Bridgewater out there. Maybe you could get him if you want. I don't know how he fits the system, but we'll see what they do. And Baker has a nice little gig for him to, I think to be the starter in Tampa Bay. And he auditioned pretty well with the Rams. I think it was 5 games, one memorable Thursday night comeback victory against the Raiders, and
Mhm.
that led to a starting opportunity. And there were so many jobs available that you thought Baker played well enough to get one. So, and then the one that might probably like legit hurt is losing Matt Gay. And I know it's a kicker position, but this guy was accurate. He was nails. Anytime you need like a 50-yarder, he'll get it. I think he missed maybe like 2 field goals or 4 the last 2 years combined. He made the Pro Bowl in 2021, the year they won the Super Bowl. So that was such a memorable year for Matt Gay. And the year was awful last year for the team, but Matt Gay was still making his kicks. So I want to say he got the biggest contract ever for a kicker in free agency, $22 million in 4 years to the Colts. And that is their gain and a big loss for the Rams.
Yeah, and the Colts were desperate because they haven't been able to replace their Hall of Fame kicker for the last few years. They rotated kickers there, so they identified Matt Gay as their guy, and they overpaid him, and rightfully so. He's well deserving, especially after, as you talked about, he's been nailed since he got here from. He was cut by Tampa Bay, talking about, and
Yeah.
because of about some missed field goals there. So I mean, you never know, man. Like. Uh, Redemption with kickers always happens, and maybe the Rams find themselves one because they're gonna need it because they need money, right? They need cheap kickers as well, and also a long snapper who they are really important as we've seen. Losing Matt Orchek, so yeah, it's there's a lot of players. There's more people leaving the Rams than there are coming in as of right now.
Yeah, I'm sure they're gonna get 2 long snappers in camp, and it's gonna be a nice, fun battle to keep an eye on. I can't wait for a long snapper competition in the
And
summertime,
a kicker and a
and
backup
all
quarterback.
that the
Yeah.
things the bad teams go through every single year. So let's have fun with that one.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to the Jalen Ramsey trade
Yes.
that happened on Sunday. Um, when I saw the news, it was a little bit. I was a little bit surprised by the team, but I wasn't surprised by the compensation that they got. The Rams getting a third round pick and Hunter Long. What was your reaction to it? And I know, as you talked about, you said that you wrote about it. What did you write about the trade? For those
Yeah,
who haven't read the story.
we've been talking about it here in House of Horns about Jalen Ramsey being on the trading block, and we saw this coming months away since even right after the season ended. And even Jalen Ramsey, he's such a smart guy that he saw the writing on the wall. Like he knew his contract situation, he knew how bad the roster was, he knew he was the only available asset or currently on that team at the time that there's going to be a trade that's going to go down. And we discussed it. We thought it's going to be because the whole contract situation is going to be probably not a day 3 pick, but a third round pick, and they'll be lucky if they got a second. And then it was weird because like the weeks go by and people are saying like, oh, maybe a late first round pick. I'm like, I don't think so. When it comes to like we learned in the NFL, like when it comes to contracts, that if somebody needs to get paid, that diminishes your value, and as a team, you don't get it back. So for Ramsey, credit to him, he has some leverage. If he wanted to go to Miami, he gets to go to Miami because, hey, I'm not going to show up to your camp without being a headache because I need more guaranteed money in my salary. And yeah, I'm a little older. By the way, Darius Slay is 32 years old, and he just got $21 million the next 2 years, which only Jair Alexander could say. So a little bargain there for Miami because he's 28 years old. I think I want to say maybe 27. So he's still on the younger side. And then I know he played poorly in the beginning of the season. The Ramsey is for the Rams, but he picked it up late, and we were giving him credit all throughout December here at House of Horn. So for Jalen Ramsey, he had some kind of leverage. It's always rare where players have leverage, and when you do have a little bit, you do it. And he knew that he wanted a new contract, and and he wanted to go to Miami. So when you don't have that many suitors, you don't create, I guess, the bargaining or the negotiating there, and you don't raise the compensation. So when it was pretty much just Miami, and Miami's like, okay, you want a third round pick, the Rams are probably like, all right, man, just take it. We need to create cap space. The new league year coming up, and we have to be under that red line. So they forced their hand. They threw in a Hunter Long in there, which is kind of weird. I think he had only one career reception, and
Yeah.
supposedly I saw a report that the Rams wanted to draft Hunter Long in the third round 2 years ago. So they're kind of like, hey, you know what, you get that back, and it's kind of like two third round picks if you think about it that way. I think he's more of a
Block.
receiver, or is
Oh,
he is he a blocker? I feel like he was more a receiver tight end. So he's, regardless of which one it is, he's one dimensional, and that's not good when you're
right.
playing in the 11 personnel of Sean McVay, and that's why Tyler Higbee stays on the field. He does everything. So we'll see what they do with him. But also Bryson Hopkins, he did not develop last year, so maybe some competition. So I know Rams fans are annoyed that it wasn't more, and then you get a third round pick and you lose a star player, and it's like, what are we doing here? It's a typical classic trade, Victor,
Yes.
where you're gonna, create a salary cap, and you're gonna start maybe rebuilding, and sometimes it doesn't look good, but for your future, it's better, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No. In terms of Jalen Ramsey, this he made, or him and his agent made this contract because this was their deal. Like they were after 4 years. Because if you remember, it was after the fourth year that he demanded a trade out of Jacksonville, and then it just so happens that it happened again after 4 years with the Rams. He forced his way out. He made it so there was no leverage for the Rams because his money needed to be guaranteed going into the 2023 season, and then he got the Dolphins to guarantee the 2024 season. So, I mean, this was a big win for Ramsey. In terms of the Rams here, they get a third round pick. The surprising thing wasn't the third round pick, is my only problem here is getting Hunter Long when you can get a tight end in this draft, because it's one of the best tight end classes we've seen, in a long time. So I would have just waited to draft one instead of picking up Hunter Long. But I didn't know that tidbit that you just brought up, that they were really interested in him. But if he's one dimensional, then that doesn't make sense, right, Gilbert? Because as you said, for 11 personnel, you want someone that can do both things, and there's plenty of guys in this draft that can do both things. So that's why maybe they don't want to go through the whole process of teaching the offense. But Hunter Long isn't going to know the offense. He's going to come in kind of, on the one thing that kind of is intriguing is that I know that McVay wants to start running some of those Shanahan uh, things to his offense, and so because McDaniel runs some of those
Yep.
parts in Miami, that might have been why they were intrigued by him.
Yeah, and it's weird because Shanahan uses George Kittle very heavily, and Mike McDaniel goes to Miami and he doesn't even use Mike Gesicki. So I don't. Maybe he's trying to do his own way there, but you're right. I'm sure the foundations, the principles of the Shanahan system was with Mike McDaniel's, and Hunter Long got to learn that. So, Sean McVay uses a tight end much more than Mike McDaniel. I don't know what the heck that was with Mike McDaniel, but when you have
I
Tyreek
think
Hill,
he was just stuck with him, and I don't. He's a free agent now, and
he hasn't
I
been signed, so maybe
yeah, he
there's
hasn't
something
been
there.
signed. So there you go.
And he was very good a couple of years ago, but that's not the point. And also, too, when you have the two best downfield passers, you're not gonna dump it off to the tight end.
Exactly.
But we'll see what they do with Hunter Long. Sometimes, and this is a time of year where guys get overlooked, or they couldn't find their stride in the first team. So if you're a good GM, you have a good scouting department, you try to find those gems and you turn them over and you say, okay, you're gonna make it work over here. So that could be something like, say Hunter Long becomes a guy, and then in 4 years, this is a good trade, but we're not going to get far ahead because he only had one catch in 2 years in Miami. So, like you mentioned, it's a very loaded tight end class, but when you're in the Rams, you have so many holes to fill. Maybe there's one way to fill a need because you have one more year of Tyler Higbee. I doubt he's going to come back the following year. So you're planning for the future with the tight end there. Maybe you develop him. If you really like them, you develop him. We'll see what happens with Hunter Long. I'm not trying to give a lot of love here and optimism for Rams fans. it is a trade you lose, in 2023, but it's a trade you're going to win in 2024. And who knows, maybe that third round pick brings in some needed offensive line help, brings in a needed cornerback, brings in needed edge rushers. And so now they have, I want to say, 4 day 2 picks, a couple second rounders and a couple third round picks. So that's the way you're going to build this roster, and we're going to discuss it in a bit. But yeah, you take the loss right now, but this like the Rams are at least building for their future, and maybe there'll be players in 2024. But I'm not here to give you positivity, because this roster right now screams another rebuild year. And if they have their first round pick for the first time in a long time next year, it could be a high first round pick. So these moves don't show you that they're going to be a contender. Again, one of the biggest questions, maybe I could go off of this right here, right now, because when I posted a comment or a picture of Jalen Ramsey on the YouTube channel community page, somebody asked and said, why the heck did Sean McVay come back if you're going to trade all your best players? And, we're going to discuss the potential roster, but,
No, go ahead.
obviously,
Go ahead, and I'll go ahead and get into it now. Might as well. Go ahead.
yeah, no, and before I get into that fully, I think he just has an idea, Sean McVay, of like, okay, I want to be here to repair this roster, and it's not for him to be a champion and win every year. I think he came back and he feels like, okay, let's start building for the future, and to me, it makes it feel like maybe he wants to be around for a little longer. So, it doesn't make sense right now, the move, but trading away a guy like Ramsey and you're not trying to win this year, or I guess you are trying to win. Let me rephrase that. To me, it lets me know that Sean McVay is here for the next phase. Maybe it could be 2 or 3 years, and then after that, he goes to the TV thing. But yeah, Victor, we can start
Well,
discussing this.
I
Go ahead.
was gonna ask you. I know we need to move on, and this kind of goes into the discussing the depth chart, but wouldn't it make sense for, like, I know he's not I know McVay isn't someone who, you know needs to fail certain things to be considered a Hall of Famer, but
Yeah.
at some point, I mean, would you say that he came into a good situation, or was he part of the reason they were able to build this roster?
No, he was a reason to build that roster, and I think people forget that because he has success so quickly, and it was a winning, I guess, organization when he got there. They became that instantly, and he was part of that process. And I think that's what Leslie was saying. One of my final press conference there was like, yeah, that was a phase, and they had to get through it. And they lost to the Falcons in the wild card. I want to say 2017. They went to the Super Bowl in 2018. Again, quick rise, but they get smacked by the Patriots. They got embarrassed. And then 2019 they lose. They didn't even go to the playoffs. They got Ramsey though, but that was the Ramsey trade was the start of the. All right, the Rams and Sean McVay, they were saying to themselves, we know that we could win, but how can you get to that next level? And then when the Ramsey trade, the Stafford trade, all these trades started happening, that was the all-in phase. Now it's kind of like, all right, how do you now? This might be kind of a more of a repair job because it was a 5-12 roster, and you start. We can start with that where we transition. When
Yes.
you have a core group of Aaron Donald, and I think all signs point to Aaron Donald being back, uh, Cooper Cup, and Matthew Stafford. And that's another reason here too, Victor. I feel like Sean McVay return because he probably feels really confident that Stafford is going to be healthy and ready to go. So you got your quarterback, you got your best receiver, which is probably one of the best receivers in the league, and then you have the best defensive player in the world. That's a good 3 to kind of build off. And I think for him, that was enough to say it won't be a total repair job, but we can start planting the seeds that if he gets to the point where like he wants to leave kind of quickly, like in 2 years, I feel like, uh, okay, I did my part here. You guys are in a good place. Now put me in your ring of team honor and maybe the Hall of Fame. You never know. But I think that those are all positive signs to look for here.
Yeah, no, and I mean that's a good transition, because now we can look and see at we what he has in front of him. Like, look at this roster, and so, I mean, let's go.
We go
You
offense
mentioned,
or defense.
let's talk with offense. Let's start there, because that's the sexy part now of the
Yeah.
NFL. Like, that's what gets butts in the seats, as they say, at NFL stadiums. And so, I mean, going over I mean, the offensive. Let's start with the offensive line. We know Coleman Shelton is back, right? We don't
Yeah.
know what's going to happen with the left tackle. I'm like,
Don't know boom. They actually just
just,
restructured his contract, so that makes me feel like he's gonna come back.
yeah,
So that's gonna be tricky.
yeah. So how does the rest of the offensive look to you for you?
Yeah. So let's start with John Open. Let's just keep it real. He wasn't good at his first year being a full time starting left tackle, and it was weird because he had a couple of spot starts for Andrew Whitworth, and he played well.
Hmm.
Maybe that was a better team, and he looked better with a better team, and you mask kind of deficiencies, and this time when everything is really bad, and you're now the go to guy, it really fell apart. So for the Rams to kind of restructure that contract and give them some kind of space, and that kind of makes me feel like okay, they could work with him. They feel at least they feel they could work with him. So that's gonna be an issue though. Joe Nopum, you know, I'm gonna mess up his name. I feel like no, but I want it's Alaric Jackson. He had like a pretty serious I want to say like condition. It was like something with the not a
Blood,
heart thing, but a blood, right? Like blood
yeah,
clot,
blood
right? Yeah.
clots. Yeah,
Okay. And we'll see how he does. But he actually played pretty well before he got the situation there. So we'll see what happens. That's a big question mark. And obviously, when you have a guy like Coleman Shelton who could play either center or either left guard or right guard, that's a good guy to have there. We don't know what the center Brian Allen. When Brian Allen's on the field, he's pretty good. But he's not available. That's gonna be a tough part. Like
yeah.
maybe you draft a center in one of these second or maybe or third round pick. Maybe that third round pick from Jalen Ramsey. You got to get maybe like a backup to really help you out.
Yeah.
Because then if you keep relying on Coleman Shelton, then he can't play guard. So that's the thing. And maybe the plan is having Coleman Shelton, and then you like waiting on Logan Bruss to develop or stay
That
healthy.
was, yep.
Tremaine Ankrum, like I think I asked you this a couple weeks ago, but they're like they have young guys who got hurt. Do you just kind of bank on like these guys staying healthy and then focus on other places? Because you said no. And what, by the way, Rob Havenstein has been the reliable guy. Don't worry about him. But
Exactly.
do you really go heavy on the draft on offensive linemen, or do you just say let's focus on defense and let's just hope these guys stay healthy and let's develop them? Because they even fired the old line coach, so maybe the next guy could really develop them.
Yeah, no, and we'll get into it, but they had when we talk about fixing this roster, but they have 12 draft picks. This is a really good offensive line draft class, so you can find some offensive line here. I would think they would try and sign a couple of veteran guys who can do. wh- what's really popular right now with the NFL is linemen who can play multiple position. You're able to move around from guard to tackle and tackle to guard, play multiple positions. And so you need, if you can, if your new offensive coordinator is able to develop those kind of players, then that goes a long way. Also keeping them healthy, as you talked about with Logan Bross, he's going to be back. And so he should be back after losing him for the season with a knee injury. And so I mean, that's the way to go, is pretty much uh, fix your line through the draft. I mean, you have 12 picks, take advantage of it. But you're gonna have so many holes, and you have not that much money, and so like I said, you're gonna have to go in and pick up some veteran guys on
Yeah.
on the cheap.
Especially when Matthew Stafford got beat up last year, and you're banking on him staying healthy. So you're right, man. You can't just settle on health. And also too, like Logan Bruss might be a rookie this year because technically, or not technically, but like in a way, because last year the team didn't feel confident enough for him to start. Like he was gonna play behind Coleman Shelton. Then he got hurt in the preseason, remember? So and then when everything got pretty bad, he wasn't available to help out. Like his job was to help out when people got hurt, and he got hurt before that. So he could be playing catch up. He never got a full season. He never got to experience the NFL. So and you're gonna count on that. I know they were very excited about Tremaine Ankrum, and he's had experience, and he's had a freak accident. I think on the first drive of replacing I forget who got hurt. I think it was
No, it was Edwards, right? Was it Edwards? Because Edwards got hurt
no,
twice.
that was later
But
on, and he's
yeah,
another one I probably won't be coming back. You're at
yeah,
David Edwards.
Brian Allen was another one that got hurt early on. Um, they had so many guys go down now that at this point that it's I'm trying to think of the guys that were there. I mean, there's so many. Uh, no, I can't even think of, like, I'm trying to go over this roster, and it's the one at the end of the season, and that's when they had all, like, yeah, it was the one it was the last makeshift offensive line pieces that they
You,
had.
you know what? I think it was. I think Alaric Jackson was playing guard. I forgot that already. So somebody in the comments will let us know. But
Yeah,
I think he was actually playing. Jackson was playing guard. I didn't think about it, but then he had to play left tackle. I think I remember that
yeah,
clearly.
they had to move him. You're right.
But let's go on to the skill players now. And first of all, the easy one is running back. I think you're okay. Running back Cam Akers played pretty well. Kyron Williams, hopefully he kind of figures it out. For some reason, they wouldn't give him touches last year, and then he couldn't stay healthy. But I think you have a nice, decent 1-2 punch there, and we'll see what they do because Cam Akers is going to be uh, a free agent the year after, and maybe you're banking on Kyron Williams to be the one to take over. So we'll see about that. And then obviously receiver starts with Cooper Cup. You're okay there. And then Allen Robinson might not be back. They're really trying to get rid of him. So we'll see what turns out to be there. But after what happened with Cam Akers and they brought him back, I'm not going to rule that out. Uh, I think Jordan Rodriguez from the Athletic brought this up. That Van Jefferson is in the last year was contract. Maybe they try to move him. So it's a little uncertainty there. And he's been up and down. And then he got hurt too. So it's not the best receiving core either. There's guys that might leave, guys that haven't panned out. Like Tutu Atwell is another one who just gets you a bomb every now and then, and it just can't, be consistent about it. A big one though, Ben Skoranek, he was valuable in various ways in his 11 personnel, and he's healthy now. So I think you need one more playmaker in that group there. What do you think, Vic?
Yeah, I would think so. Either you have to bring in a veteran, and I would think they would sign a veteran on the cheap at the running back position, and same thing with the receiver. I think once you put it out there, I know you said, well, they brought back Cam Akers. Well, Cam Akers, you don't say you're going to take on some of that money, that you're willing to take on some of that money. It seems like they're pretty much done with Allen Robinson. They want to bring in someone that actually fits.
Yeah.
Um, I think with Cam Akers, it was a fact that it was in season, and then he ended up proving it right. That he was a. I think by now you pretty much made your decision during the off season, and it's kind of hard to go back. But I mean, we've seen stranger things, but um, we'll see. I just don't think he comes back. I brought it up. We brought it up on the last episode. It was just kind of fishy to me that I wasn't surprised that was the reason I brought it up in the first place, because I kind of figured that it was just strange the way things kind of worked out towards the end there, and it just didn't seem like a fit for him. And so it kind of makes sense for both parties to kind of part ways at this point. Like, he's another one. Like, it's funny how, like, things really worked out with Bobby Wagner and the Rams, but yet they parted ways. And I think it's the opposite here with Allen Robinson. And who knows, maybe they don't part ways. So it'll be interesting to see
It,
what happens between both parties there.
it's gonna be tough to move the contract, even though the Rams are offering to eat a big chunk of it, and then a player who looked a couple of steps slow last year. So uh, after we all raved about him in training camp, not you, Vic, but and then yeah, real quick, we already talked about this. The tight ends, Tyler Higbee should be back. He's gonna probably do everything again. Bryson Hopkins is still there. Yeah, he's not a free agent. Yeah, he's still pretty young. And then Hunter Long, maybe Hunter Long, because we might be doing some stories on him breaking out. We'll see.
Yeah.
But the big question mark. Let's go over to the defense, and let me just start naming some names of people who are probably here next to Aaron Donald. But you got Jonah Williams, you got Bobby Brown, you got Daniel Hardy, Michael Hoyt. Michael Hoyt was a player last year. They brought him back on the tender there, whatever the heck that means. I got to figure that out. There's so many like first tender, second tender, whatever. But he's back.
Yeah, it's pretty much like if someone tries to sign that player, they have to give you, like, if they do like a third or a fourth round tender, then they would have to give you a second or third round pick. So that either tells you how much they value that player or they don't. So depending on what round of a tender, as far as I know, that's how it works.
Yeah, and they felt Michael Hoyt was worth that. So and he flashed well. And actually, another one here, we forgot about this guy. Like speaking of gems, and again, this is like when the team is 5-12, you're looking for some kind of positivity. But
Yeah.
Laura Murchison, remember he had that one crazy game where he had like 2 or 3 sacks that came out of nowhere and the team was surprised. So he might stick around because of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a defensive line because Leonard Floyd is gone. Ashawn Robinson's probably gone. We haven't heard anything on Greg Gaines. Greg Gaines was as Raheem Morris put it, the meat and potatoes for this defensive line and a
Yep.
big help for Aaron Donald. So maybe if Gaines can get a bigger contract elsewhere, because I think he was good enough to get a contract somewhere else. Maybe he'll come back on the cheap, and that's what the Rams are waiting for. And they will definitely need to use him because you can't rely on Bobby Brown and Ernest Brown, a lot of Browns, and then Jonah Williams to kind of be your interior defensive line because if Aaron Donald's getting double team, triple team with Greg Gaines and Ashawn Robinson, imagine with these guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what you think about this front here before you get to the linebackers.
Yeah, it's gonna be they're gonna have to go in and either dip into the draft or pick up defensive linemen on the cheap, like during either a time where you see a lot of a player movement is the post June 1st cut, and I think that's when you can start bringing in some of those guys who either get released or get cut, and are out there on the free agent market. So that's when I see them kind of filling the rest of the roster with like 1 year deals, and and then they'll bring in that through the draft. So whatever the next process is going to be whatever they aren't able to pick up right now in terms of free agency because of their lack of money that they have under the cap right now. Then they'll go into the draft, see what they can get to fill in some holes, and then the next thing is going to be the post June 1st cuts, and then they'll fill the rest of their roster.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting what they do with that first, second round pick, and even all the day two picks. Like, maybe they'll focus on the defensive line with edge rusher or interior, because also you never know, Aaron Donald could just retire, so you got to start
Yeah.
building the interior there. Offensive line. So I'm just curious because these in the trenches, man, they're pretty weak right now. So it
Yeah.
might be the first four pick is defensive line or offensive line. But linebacker, you know what you get. Ernest Jones, he's ready to take over for Bobby Wagner. Obviously, you won't get the type of production that Bobby Wagner provided, but I'm just curious to see what he does as the full time middle linebacker. We saw a lot last year where he got lost in terms of scheme and personnel because you don't play two inside linebackers, and we'll see. Maybe they'll get somebody else, and he's gonna be like, "What the heck, man? I'm here waiting my turn." So Ernest Jones, we'll see what he does there. The other guys are like kind of special teamers: Christian Roseboom, Jake Hummel, Trevane Howard. He actually was hurt all last year, but I think he was a quality player, but for some reason he couldn't stay healthy, even though he came back and he never played. It was such a weird thing, but yeah, just Ernest Jones right now, Vic.
Yeah, I mean it's not looking good. Like, and I can just go into the safety. I mean, they
Yeah,
like as we talked about Taylor Rapp and Nick Scott, and then you got the rookie guys on the secondary. So my
yeah.
question to you, Gilbert, is who's got the bigger job? Is it Sean McVay with the offense, or is it Raheem Morris with the defense? Because they're both like at least Sean McVay has Matthew Stafford and Cooper
So,
Cup and Cam Akers. Who does I mean
Higby too.
outside of in Higby? I mean, Raheem Morris has Aaron Donald, who's all world, and then who?
Yeah. The only bad thing for, no, I shouldn't say only, but the really bad thing for Sean McVay is that if the offensive line can't protect, it all falls apart. All those guys that we just named don't matter. We saw it last year, so
Yeah,
that's a big weakness there. But I'm gonna say Raheem Morris because yeah, because you could, like we mentioned, you could triple team Aaron Donald, and what are the other guys going to do? And that was a problem with Terrell Lewis and Justin Hollins and Leonard Floyd. They couldn't like create pressure, so they triple team Aaron Donald. What makes you think these guys are going to create pressure? So, and that was a problem. So we'll see. And it's also kind of like you're betting on Ernest Jones to be a guy, and what if he's not? And that's gonna be another problem there. And then you're also betting on these rookie safeties to be some type of guys. Like I know you get Jordan Fuller back, but he can't stay healthy. I don't even know what's going on with Jordan Fuller, Quentin Lake, Russ Yeast. Like they like Russ Yeast, and I know Sean McVay is a fan of Quentin Lake, but he just couldn't play as much. And but when you see Quentin Lake, like he's a big lengthy dude. He's athletic, so maybe this could be where they help. But maybe that's why they feel confident in saying like Taylor Rapp, Nick Scott, go ahead. We have the rookies here, and we have not Robert Rochelle, but Jordan Fuller. So I think maybe the Rams are probably thinking that to themselves and see what the future is and going to the cornerbacks. Yeah, you're not gonna rely on Robert Rochelle. He could barely play last year, but we do know they have Kobe Durant. I think he's a playmaker. I think he's legit, already proven, and not like veteran status proven, but his flashes are there and he could play. Uh, it'll be interesting though where he goes because they tried him out. They focus on the slot for him because he's a smaller dude, and there was not an opening with Troy Hill, uh, what's his name, David Long, and Ramsey, obviously. But maybe he might play outside now. We don't know. That's what he played in college, but he is a smaller dude, so we will see about that one. And then Darion Kendrick, he had a lot of mistakes, but he's competitive, he's confident, he's feisty. He might do something. I'm still not sold on the play though. He does do a lot of grabbing, and that could really hurt you. So the secondary is very inexperienced, but potential. And then maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. Potential could be good right now.
Yeah, I mean, and you're going into your second year now with, with an off season under the system. You're bringing back your defensive coordinator. Raheem Morris is back. You didn't lose him, and so you kind of know the principles of what you want to run, and so that also helps. And you see players make that jump in year 2 and year 3, and then we'll see what else they bring in. I mean, you also need veteran leadership, especially after you lose someone like Bobby Wagner. I know he doesn't play the
Yeah,
secondary, but you still need someone, who can you know, someone who can lead back there. He can be the quarterback of the secondary is what I was trying to get to. And so that's, you still need one of those guys. I mean, you
yeah,
can't rely on young guys there, but it's a very young, inexperienced secondary, but they can grow together. And now you have and this is what we can go into this now. How do the Rams fix this roster?
yeah. And you brought up a good point. They're gonna lose a lot of leadership. And Aaron Donald's not a vocal guy. He's not a guy that's gonna say, "Hey, come over here, kid." He's gonna be a guy like you watch me and you learn because I am the best, and you better keep your eyes open. So
Yeah.
yeah, see what they do with that. But and also too, when you're gonna fix a roster, the best thing to do right now is use those 12 picks and hopefully you hit on 4 or 5. And sometimes that's enough for a team to kind of sneak into the playoff. They have a very like I know the Jets are not a good example because they didn't make the playoffs, but they were in position to make the playoffs out of nowhere because it was such a productive, instantly rookie class. So if you hit, and I know they don't have a first round pick when you can get a Sauce Gardner or even another high pick like a Brees Hall. But still, you got to hit here and support. And all we've been hearing for years, Victor, that the Rams know how to find gems in the back end, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't know about that because you would have had more talent right now. But I know they were serviceable for a good amount of years. And but right now they don't really have a lot of dudes like that. I know Kobe Durant could be a guy. I think he was a 4th round pick, and we'll see about the other dudes. But yeah, definitely in the draft, and I think that's what we're gonna focus on because the Rams currently have $10 million in cap space, and that's pretty much right. $7 million is probably going to your rookie. So maybe you could bring a veteran or two, and then maybe you should on defense because like we mentioned, Aaron Donald's the only one there. But that's about it. And I think at this point, you bank on Sean McVay and Raheem Morris, two really good coaches to develop a young group, and they move along quickly, and just focus on this draft. And you better hit on a couple.
Yeah, so let me go over. They got 12 picks. They got second rounder, 36 overall, two third round picks, 69 and 77. So they got 3 picks inside the top 100. They got three fifth round picks, 167, 171, 177. 3 6 round picks, 182, 189, and 191, and 3 7th round picks, 223, 235, and 251. Um, and we've seen the one thing I'll say in terms of positivity here is you saw what I know you mentioned the Jets, and I'll mention the rivals, the Seahawks.
Yeah,
The Seahawks found a bunch of gems in the middle rounds. I know they hit on their first couple of rounds, but I mean, look at their right tackle they got in the mid rounds. Tyreek Woolen, middle of the round. So you can find Kobe Bryant, middle of the rounds. you can find talent. It's up to your scouts now, and and then having that many draft picks, you can also move up into the first round if you want. It all depends on less need, and so I mean, and we've seen, and it's not just the Seahawks, Gilbert. Kansas City, who won the Super Bowl, they had three starting guys on their secondary who were rookies last year. So it is possible to be able to as Leslie is calling it, a remodel. You're able to do that but you got to hit on your draft picks. And so now he's got ammunition to be able to do that, and that's the way you do it. I mean, the most interesting part about this, though, Gilbert, is where do they start? you know, because they have so many holes.
I say they stay patient, and I think they will. You don't go and get aggressive with a free agent, and I think that's why they've been really quiet. Maybe there's one that wants that has to take a prove it deal for 1 year, and the 49ers are really good at this. They find guys who are kind of just are talented but don't really get a lot of interest for the second contract, and they get them on 1 year prove it deals, prove it, and then when they prove it, they go elsewhere. But it helps you for that same year, so you can see something like that, and we'll see what happens with the Rams, but there's the draft is gonna be pivotal here, especially if you want to compete. And like we mentioned for Sean McVay, he has a good trio: Aaron Donald and Cooper Cup and Matthew Stafford. You hit pieces around these guys, like the Seahawks and the Jets. They did not have a trio like that. So imagine that trio with that type of draft class. But that's easier said than done. We will see. But again, maybe I should ask a question before we leave, Victor. How many games will this team win? Now that you know everything, the depth chart, where it stands, the draft picks that they have, and what they might be thinking in terms of maybe adding a free agent or two. I'm sure they will add one or two. I wouldn't be surprised if Greg Gaines come back. I know he's a in-house free agent, but it's still early. You see it kind of happening, from now to the draft, like a couple of moves here and there. So, yeah. So I ask you again, how many games this team gonna win?
Yeah, we'll find out. Before we do go, Gilbert, just wanted to give a quick update. Sean McVay has filled out his whole coaching staff. Um, I'll go quickly and just go over. I'm sure everybody, Ram fans already know, but Jimmy Lake is now the assistant head coach. Chase Blackburn is a special teams coordinator, as we talked about on the last episode. Andrew Carter is the assistant defensive line coach. Ron Gold is a running backs coach. I saw they were interested in Deshaun Foster from UCLA and a couple of other guys, and so he I think he comes from Georgia Tech or somebody like that. I think they got him from or San Diego State. Aubrey Pleasant is a defensive backs and pass game coordinator, and then of course we talked about Mike LaFleur. He's the
Yeah,
offensive coordinator. Nick Caley is the tight ends coach. Joe Caniglio is the outside linebackers coach. Mike Harris is a defensive assistant, and Ryan Wendell is the offensive line coach. So their staff is all set now, and we'll see how they do. As you said, let's see if they can win more than 7 games with this coaching staff. Now there's Sean McVay was able to get the guys he wanted, it seems like, and so now there's no excuses going forward, at least on his side of things.
yeah. He brings back a coach that he likes and Aubrey Pleasant, and then a bunch of guys that maybe he's not too familiar with. And but one good thing about Sean McVay, he knows how to find good coaches from other places, and maybe they're not part of his tree or system or network or whatever it is. But like Sean McVay always says this, and in credit to him, like, oh, I'm a fan of the game, and I'm always checking out other teams what they're doing, and yeah, with that, you see it like on TV and him his great memory, but when I was covering him every day, I'm like, yeah, this guy knows what the hell's going on in the entire 32 teams, and he has a great memory. So, some of these coaches, you're probably thinking like, where's the connection? And that's what happens with coaches, right? There's always a connection or something where they knew somebody. Obviously, the Mike LaFleur one's the easy one because Matt LaFleur, but the assistant coaches, there's some guys that they're coming from other programs or I guess franchises where they do things differently, and maybe is a way of Sean McVay to say, hey, after you get your ass kicked and you go 5-12, you got to evolve. So bringing some new
Yes.
guys to teach you some new things.
Yeah, and we see it every year, man. Like, and that's the good cool thing about becoming a better coach is being able to process new things and evolve as we've talked about. So, and he's trying to bring in some of those elements from the Shanahan offense, and we'll see if that works now. So, I mean, if you can beat them, join them, and I think that's what Sean McVay's doing with trying to get that Shanahan scheme. But that's all I have for you today,
Yeah.
Gilberts, and I know we got to go.
Yeah, we had to fill the show because there's not a lot of moving parts for the Rams coming in at least. So we decided to look at the depth chart and hope maybe it was boring or whatever, but hopefully got some good knowledge out of it to see where this roster stands, and then just kind of just bring in ideas because I'm sure there's probably things we're not touching on that you're probably thinking like, well, I like what they're doing here, or maybe you don't like what they're doing at a different position, and then you're thinking how they can repair it. So
Yeah,
again,
let us know.
get in the comments. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So let us know what we're missing there, and like especially how Tremaine Ankrum got hurt, or who he was he filling for because we forgot, and I want to say it
yeah.
might be not Jackson, but there's somebody else. I'm really forgetting. But anyways, that should be it. Vic, are you ready to go?
Yes, let's go. Let's go watch some March Madness,
I
get some
know.
work done. So that's it from me, Gilbert. Go ahead and close us out.
Yeah, and we got a little vacation trip coming up this weekend too. So
Yes.
on that note, ya nos vamos, pues, vámonos.